Dates and Mates with your host, Damona Hoffman.
Hello, lovers. Welcome to Dates and Mates. Guess what? It's Valentine's Day. Okay, it's not really Valentine's Day, but it's about to be Valentine's Day. And that's why I'm so excited for today's show. I've got my love pink dress on. And
Very seasonal.
It's seasonal. And you know, if I'm wearing pink, I am coming ready to party
ready
and
to
to share some great Valentine's Day advice with you. And maybe you don't have a date February 14th. Well, I will tell you just what to do to make sure that this doesn't turn into Singles Awareness Day for you. And if you are coupled, we have lots of tips that we'll be sharing on how to make this Valentine's Day really special. And I'm not doing it alone. I brought in the big guns, Orna and Matthew Walters. They are soulmate coaches. They're going to tell you how to not just date, but to date for a soulmate. And they'll be joining me a little bit later in today's show. Producer Thomas, have you gotten your Valentine's Day plan together
I finally have figured out what I'm doing with my girlfriend, thankfully, just yesterday, actually. So it was really down to the wire.
Did you get some ideas from listening to Dates and Mates last week?
I was inspired by the tale of long-term love that you can see on iTunes, right?
Right?
With Lee and Mimi Hoffman.
Yeah.
But no, I was inspired. We were going to be going to a burlesque show, which seemed kind of fun and interesting. So that's
that is
what,
super hot.
Yeah, it should be kind of fun.
On actual February 14th?
On actual February 14th. Yeah.
I like that idea. Believe it or not, so I had my original Valentine's Day idea of going to the theater, and that got canceled. The show canceled on us, believe it or not.
Wow.
And then I made a plan to go wine tasting, but we weren't going to go on actual February 14th. We were going to go on the 12th, and then that got canceled.
The wine canceling canceled on you? Or
yes.
the wine tasting canceled
yes.
on you? Wow.
Yes, and I was
You're
like,
cursed. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what to do. But I found another wine tasting that's wine, cheese, and chocolate, which sounds even better.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
And we're doing that on actual Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Oh, very nice.
I'll let you know if I'm not too drunk
If
next week for
you're
next
not
week's
you'll
show.
be a hungover show.
The hungover show will be next week, but I'll share lots of goodies with you guys from Valentine's Day. So today we have headlines, of course. We always have headlines. We'll talk about how to have the talk, the DTR talk with the person that you're dating. We'll discuss new rules for workplace romance. That is a tough one to say.
Yes.
Workplace romance. And we have a surprising celebrity breakup to discuss. Plus, we have thought-provoking questions from you. In Technically Dating, we'll discuss what to plan to do for Valentine's Day if you're single, and how to handle your wife getting attention from other men. Someone's a little peanut butter and jelly. Jealous.
There you go.
Well, let's kick it off with the dish.
Dee's dating dish.
Things are really confusing in the dating world now. Everyone's saying they're in these situationships where they think they're in a relationship, but they're not really sure if it's a committed relationship, or if they're dating other people, or if they should take their profiles down, or what's really happening. So thankfully, the Washington Post gave us a guide to having the talk, DTR, which is also the Tinder podcast, DTR, define the relationship. Because so many people are waiting too long to have this conversation. And one of the things that I really loved about this article was it set up where you should even begin the conversation. And it starts way before the 3-month mark. Like some people say, you should be exclusive by 3 months, which is BS. I think any of those timelines don't apply. It's whatever is right for your relationship and when you feel it's time to have the talk. But if you haven't seeded your goals in the relationship early on, then it becomes really awkward to have that conversation. Right?
A lot of so they kind of said it's like almost like a pregame. You got to start in your original Tinder or your dating profile establishment, right?
Yeah,
like
don't say I'm looking for
something
fun and fun in the sun and friendship.
If you want a relationship,
state
it up front.
Yeah, and there's really no right way to begin the conversation, but I always say begin with honesty and always start with, this is how I'm feeling. And like, it can't be something where you're strong-arming that person or giving them ultimatums. Like, if this relationship isn't going somewhere, then you better step off because that's not going to go your way. But if you say, I'm taking my profile down because I really want to see where this goes, and then pause, wait, see what they say.
Lead them on. Yeah.
Right. Well, we have the tendency to want to fill the
Right.
space and well, I want to get this.
Let it
this,
sit. Let it simmer.
Yeah. And people want to have a specific reaction from the person. And so they start to fill the space until that reaction
happens. Yeah.
And just let them sit with it for a minute and see how they react to that. Or just say, if you're not online, you can just say, I really like you, and I want to focus on just dating you. And I don't think there's any gender rules here where people are always like, oh, you gotta wait for the man to say that this is the right time for the relationship. I think if you're feeling it, just say it, but you cannot force it to happen.
Yeah.
It's either there or it's not there, or it's too early. And don't be in such a rush. Too many ladies are in too much of a rush, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are in a rush in the dating in the workplace to date their coworkers as well. So Facebook, I guess the gold standard in workplace romance.
Them and Google, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, they came out with a set of company dating rules, which by all accounts,
most people were like, all right, cool.
That's fair. But here's the deal. If you're working at Facebook and you have a crush on somebody and you ask them out, you get one shot at it. So you better make sure before you have that conversation
that the cards are stacked in your favor.
Yeah, because it can be considered harassment if you ask someone out and they decline and then you're feeling it a couple months later and you try again. That is a no-no now at Facebook. And they saying I'm busy or I can't that night actually counts as a no.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Because, I think that does kind of that is coming up as an issue where, like, people that give no's that are kind of clouded a little bit still get pursued relentlessly. So I think that that's an interesting step forward to kind of establish what really means no.
I just don't know how we got to the point where people are thinking that workplace romance is a good idea.
Oh, it's a bad idea. It's not.
But they are. Studies have shown that people are spending so much time at work and they're thinking like, well, I already know them and I already see them all the time, so I might as well just date them. And it's really just such a bad idea.
Yeah, and then like you kind of have to navigate, I think, the weird like power dynamics inherent in any company, which is also kind of what the article was saying, right? Like where they were like, if it constitutes a conflict of interest, they're going to fire you, essentially, is what Google said.
They could fire either or both of you.
Yeah, there's like a weird power dynamic.
But I feel like that sets them up. That's a difficult situation because how do you determine who should be fired? Like, if somebody is continuing to ask you out and then you're like, get lost, then you get called into HR and they're like, sorry, you don't have a job. I think they're probably not going to do that, but according to these new rules, they could.
It's on the table.
So the bottom line is, don't date at work. But if you do date at work,
keep it a secret.
No. The rules are you have to disclose it to HR, which I think any good company has that kind of policy in place. And especially, you don't want to date your boss.
Yes.
Like when I worked at NBC and we were owned by GE, it's like corporate. It was, if you are dating somebody that's your superior, you're going to get moved to a different division. And you want that. You don't want your career to be hanging on whether or not somebody
and to
likes you.
Use a mildly crude saying, don't poop where you eat.
That was a mildly crude saying said so eloquently.
So eloquently. Right.
I give you credit for that, Producer Thomas. Well, I don't know if you've been following the celebrity dating gossip, but this one's really interesting. Sarah Silverman and Michael Sheen called it quits this week.
Very sad. I like Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, but I was surprised because I actually didn't know they were dating.
Oh. I think it's been a
3
year?
No, I think it's been actually like 3 years.
Oh.
And I apparently have been living under a rock.
Yeah.
And the extra weird thing is that she's been on Jimmy Kimmel before discussing her relationship with Michael Sheen. And she used to date Jimmy Kimmel for like
7 years or something off and on.
Yeah. So I feel like that would be really weird to go on your ex's show and talk about the person that you're dating.
I mean, if it was off and on, maybe it was a little bit more of a casual thing. Who knows? Who's to say?
But of course, in classic Sarah fashion, she announced it even with a bit of humor. She said, "The great at Michael Sheen," she tagged him on this, "and I consciously uncoupled over Christmas." I mean, not over Christmas. Like, that wasn't the fight that ended it. No fight. We just live in different countries and it got hard. Felt like we should just tell y'all so you stop asking, how's Michael? How's Sarah? And I'm sure that's really, when she's getting interviewed all the time, I'm sure it's really awkward. So I'm glad that she just addressed the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But that's tough. He was living in the U.S. and he just moved back to London. And he has an 18-year-old daughter. Which is I didn't realize that. But it's hard to have a long-distance relationship. But especially
if you're in a different, 9-hour time difference or something.
Yeah,
different
it's
country.
hard to make that work. So I hope Sarah Silverman finds somebody. She's 47, and she's had a string of not so good long-term relationship that just didn't work out for her.
Yeah.
So we're rooting for you, Sarah.
Yeah.
And we're rooting for you, Michael, too. Those are the headlines, but that's just the beginning. I will be talking with my co-hosts after the break. Orna and Matthew Walters will be here to talk about the secret to finding your soulmate this Valentine's Day. So stick around. Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and if you're still hoping for a date, it's not too late. There are hundreds of interesting singles waiting for you at blackpeoplemeet.com. Black People Meet is the largest dating site for black singles in the U.S., and they've been making matches since 2002. Here's my secret, though. If you want to snag a Valentine fast, this is what you need to do. Step 1, get online now. And step 2, pick 3 to 5 photos that are flirty, fun, and tell your story visually. Step 3, write an honest profile about who you are and the person that you're hoping to meet. Step 4, and this is key, get to messaging. And women, I'm talking to you too. It's time to get out of your shell, stop waiting for a fairy tale, and go meet your man. And you have nothing to lose because you can get 1 week free at blackpeoplemeet.com/datesandmates. The Valentine's Day countdown is on, and February 14th doesn't have to be Singles Awareness Day for you. So go get your Valentine at blackpeoplemeet.com/datesandmates. Welcome back to Dates and Mates with Damona Hoffman. This is the show where modern love is made simple for you. My guest co-hosts this week are Orna and Matthew Walters. Woohoo! They are soulmate coaches for spiritual, successful single women who have everything except the man of their dreams. Their breakthrough coaching program, Bring in Your Beloved, teaches you how to identify and change your love imprint by removing blocks to love so that you can love yourself and others more deeply. They're love coaches, and they're also in love. Please give big smooches to Matthew and Orna Walters.
Thank you.
Thanks
What
so
a nice
much.
little kiss I got today.
I mean, I don't want to make it awkward. I know you're a married man. I love you guys, and I'm so glad that you're back on the show. This is, I think, a three-peat.
Yeah.
It's either two-peat
It's
or
our
it's a
third
three-peat.
time on the show, yeah.
Okay, good. So Valentine's Day is coming. I want to know, first of all, what are you guys doing for Valentine's Day?
We like to stay in on Valentine's Day. Last year we went out. We went to see one of our favorite movies downtown, a big theater. We went to see
The Princess Bride.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So romantic.
It was so awesome, too, because it was right next to the Grand Central Market. So you could go in there and get food and then bring it into the theater. And they had photo booths and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty awesome.
Really, really great. This year we're staying in and we're doing something that we really enjoy, which is we're going to picnic indoors.
I love that.
And we're going to do a big spread. And then one of us is blindfolded and the other feeds. The person who doesn't have a blindfold feeds the
pretty
other.
Awesome.
And then we switch.
And, when you make little combinations of flavors and textures. And
I love that. That combines a couple of my relationship boot camp ideas of dining in the dark and then having your own little picnic and something that you create together. I think that's beautiful. Isn't that inspiring?
Yeah. It's a cool idea.
I should have just given up on doing all these things
I will
out.
say it's one. I always think it's one side should be more fun than the other, but it's really not. It's just as much fun for me to figure out what I'm going to feed Matthew as it is for him to then feed me. And I will say this, if you want to like lose weight, you get full really fast when you don't know what you're eating and you have to chew it and taste it, and it gives your mind, I don't know what it is, but I'm full like really fast.
So we should just eat blindfolded all the time, and I'll be like so skinny.
It's a new diet phase.
I did go to that one, the dinner in the dark thing. That was
Okay.
so weird. It was so weird.
Was it weird?
Oh yeah, because they blindfold you, so you're even walking to the table in the dark, and then you're sitting there. I mean, you really feel it's not as sexy as what you're describing, because you just feel like you have two left feet, and you're like, where you're feeling around, like where's my fork, and like I don't even know how to eat when I can't see my food. But to have your partner feed it to you, it's a lot less intimidating.
It's
I
a lot
like that.
less risky, I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. As you brought up the word risky, and that makes me think of people finding love. And I always tell my clients, you got to take a risk to find love. And I know there's some people listening, and believe me, before I met my husband, I was one of those ladies that was just always like, why me? Why me? Why not? Why can't I be the one to have the Valentine's Day date with the flowers and the chocolates, and it was never me. Why is it that some people find love so easily and others it seems like they have to work so hard at it?
It's a really long conversation. Now, let's make it short. I mean, we didn't get together until after 40. So we get this. We both went on our own little journey of bad relationships and bad mistakes and lonely Valentine's days and all of that. So first, I just want to say this is not coming from the fact that we met in high school and we've been in love for 40 years and it's always been easy. So what we've discovered in the people we work with is that we all have, we call it your love imprint, right? We all have this subconscious program of what love feels like. And it also encompasses our limiting beliefs around love, our strategies when we're in a relationship, the things we do when we get triggered, when we get upset. And it's something that we learn in our family of origin. We learn what love feels like.
So basically, we can blame our parents.
Oh, yeah. And our siblings
yes.
and grandparents, whoever was there,
Whoever
right?
was there when we were raised. So, I mean, you're cute. I mean, I don't want to place blame, but remember every parent, and you're a parent, right? You're doing the best you can.
I'm trying not to screw them up.
Yeah, but
I'm
you will.
trying my best.
But you're going to, because every single one of us wasn't loved exactly the way we wanted in every single moment. And we're raised by flawed people who were raised by flawed people who were raised by flawed people on through back in time. But really this, love imprint it's like the setting on your GPS for love. It's like when you learn to tie a shoe, it took all of your focus and concentration how to tie two loops together, right? And now you slip on a shoe and you tie those laces and you're thinking about a million other things. But in a sense, you learned how to do love in that same way. You responded to the events that occurred when you were little, like from 0 till about 8 years old. And all of that stuff gets locked away because that's the way our mind forms. Like there's something that happens around age 8, 9 where the analytical mind starts to be able to analyze. Before that, we can't, right? Like, you know that saying, you can't reason with a 4-year-old.
I know, I have one.
Yeah. And you cannot reason.
I'm trying to teach my daughter that because I'm just like, he can't even understand what you're saying. Like, just let it go.
Exactly.
But you can't reason with what your love imprint is. But you have methods to help people identify this and then move past it. Right?
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, as you know, with your children, they're meaning-making machines. Like they have all this information and they're making up what it means. And you don't have any control about what they're making up. Just like our parents couldn't tell us, well, this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. We decided ourselves, right? And that decision got locked away. And now what happens, say, for example, you just find that married guy, that emotionally unavailable guy, that however you want to describe him, so hot. And you don't know why. And you don't know why every time you end up with the guy who's so hot, he's always emotionally unavailable.
Yes, I hear that from clients repeatedly.
Right.
Why do I always fall
Why
for
do
guys
I always
that are
find
not
this
available?
guy? Because that GPS in your mind is like finding the thing that matches. right? And so you can look back to your parents and say, oh, wow, my dad was never around, or my mom was really cold and she was very much a disciplinarian, and I never really felt loved in my family. And that's what love feels like, is it's cold and distant and I don't know where to find it, right? And so really the first step is figuring that out. Getting in there and doing the investigative work for yourself to say, what are the patterns? What can I see today as I look back over those relationships? What's the pattern that shows up? And how does that emotional pattern resonate with my family, my childhood?
Because ultimately, we don't need a great love relationship to survive. And the way we are programmed as human beings is first for survival. So that part of you that's bringing you more of those same familiar circumstances is trying to help you, because it's like you survived that childhood. You're alive. And it wants to bring you more of those same circumstances so you'll continue to be alive, right? But there's so much more that we want because that part of us can't judge. So it doesn't know if you're alive and like blissfully happy or alive and like suicidal and miserable. Like it literally has no way to judge that, because the judgment happens in this big prefrontal cortex, and that's not where this system is running. So the biggest insight, that like the starting place, is to know, what is that love imprint? What is this thing that I keep getting over and over and over again? Because that's the place to start, that awareness piece. It's like getting into the driver's seat of the car. You can't drive the car from any other seat, right? But once you get in that driver's seat, you actually haven't gone anywhere yet. Now you're just ready to drive.
So now that people have the information, and I know they can find at Creating Love on Purpose, they can find tools to help them identify their love imprint. If they have the information, you are soulmate coaches. So you're not just trying to get them hooked up with anyone.
Right.
How do you date for a soulmate versus just dating because Valentine's Day is coming?
It's interesting. You actually slow things down to speed things up.
Oh, tell me more.
Right. So most people, when they're putting their online profile together, or they're reading other profiles, or they're going on like a first meet, or with somebody, they're got all this pressure. Is this the one? Is this the guy? I hope it's him, right? Oh my God, this profile is perfect. This has got to be the guy, right? We go to these first meets with this expectation that is so out of proportion to what's actually going on, right? What you're actually doing is you're meeting somebody else to see if they're interesting enough to share a cup of coffee with. From there, you let things start to move forward, right? But if you start putting pressure on every meet, on every guy, on every date, then nobody's ever going to meet that expectation. Nobody's ever going to, show up for you in that way, because everybody else is nervous and frustrated, and they have their story of online dating horror stories, or their story of their crazy ex that they can't stop talking about, right? So they're doing all their stuff, which is what a normal person does when they also have expectations. So you're both nervous in that first meet, and you're doing things that aren't just showing up as yourself.
Yeah. And so many times people have that bar set so high for the other person, but they are failing to look at what they're actually doing on the date. And
Exactly.
I too say, like, keep that first date short and sweet. Like, all you need to know at the end of the first date is, am I curious about knowing more about this person?
Yeah.
Could I spend another hour with them? That's it.
We actually coach our clients to have a plan after that first meet. We go, have something to do, have somewhere to go. If it's hot and sparkly, great. Then he's going to ask you out again, and you're great. You can always pick it up later. Yeah. So the slow down to speed things up is important, and to not put all that pressure and expectation. But what we also want people to look at is the dating process as a process, and that the discovery at first should be on you to pay attention to, how do you feel when you're on that date? Right? What are you saying to yourself about yourself? What's going on with you? Not, is he my match, right? But what's really going on with you after the fact? Think about, what was going on inside of me? How did I feel just being in this person's presence? And the second part of that is, how did I feel when we immediately part? What goes on? What feelings, not thoughts? Right? I was coaching a client last night. She just had a date, and I said, well, how did you feel after the night before? I was like, how did you feel? And she says, well, I was thinking, and no. How did you feel? Like, to dig to the feeling statement, not what was I thinking about, but what were the sensations in your body? It's so funny how we get so caught up in this brain of ours, this big prefrontal cortex that has all these thoughts and judgments, and it wants things to be linear and logical. And our emotional life is not that way. Our
Right.
emotional life comes through our body sensation. So if we could really be present in the moment on that date and just be curious about the other person and then think back, how did I feel in my body when I was with this person? And then how did I feel when we immediately part? It will give you so much good information so that you can cultivate discernment through the dating process.
Yeah, that's great advice.
That's what the dating process is really for. When we cultivate that kind of discernment, then we start to be able to leverage our ability to select an ideal match, a soulmate match.
I'm in total agreement. And it reminded me of a situation I'm dealing with a client who had a date with this guy that on paper seemed good. She's like, he's a decent guy. He's everything that she was looking for, successful, smart, well-mannered. But she said to me that on the first date, she felt uncomfortable. And I was like, she said she'd set up a second date with him and she was really torn because she didn't know if she should cancel the date because she wasn't really feeling it, but she couldn't pinpoint why. And sometimes I think you don't need the why. I said, let's go back to the beginning. You told me you felt uncomfortable on the date. So for whatever reason, if he makes you feel uncomfortable, that's not a person that you should be investing. But people get scared to let something go because they think something else might not step in.
But see, that's somebody who doesn't actually trust themselves.
Yeah.
Because the most disempowering question we can ask about our emotions is why? Our emotions are valid. Our emotional guidance system is sending us signals that we need to listen to. How do you know you've injured your ankle? Because when you step on it, it hurts. Right? So we don't ignore them when it comes through so obviously through our physical body, but our emotions work the same way. And we go out with somebody and we have all this hope, right? And expectation, and we want it to work. And then we start to like negate our own emotions. Ew, right?
Right.
Because the person you want to connect with is the person that leaves you feeling like, oh, like a calm inside. Like I know, oh my gosh, like the first time I ever sat down to speak with Matthew one-on-one, and he's still that calming force for me. He's like my rock. Like it was so yummy, yummy, yummy to sit in his presence.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that complicated if you're with the right person and you've done all of your self-work. But I know some people have these blocks that are keeping them from finding love, and you actually have a gift that people can get for free on your website. It's the 7 major mistakes that block single women from finding true love and how to avoid them. So that's at Creating Love on Purpose. I know you're not going to give me all your juicy, but maybe you can give me one block.
Sure. So in today's world where we're really looking at, men and women have equal opportunity, women can do things that men can do, and we totally support that. And yet what happens is women have learned how to be more masculine in their lives, in their work lives, right? And go out and get things and make things happen. But if you're showing up in that way on a date, right, and you're the one driving the date and you're the one then driving the next date and driving the next date, then you're going to find yourself where you started with the headlines 3 months down the road going, where is this going? Because I'll be honest, as a man who, when I was younger, was maybe not sure if I wanted to get married or not, but certainly liked spending time with women, certainly wanted emotional and physical intimacy. When a woman made it easy for me to get that and I liked her, I was happy to go along if she was driving the car. Now, I didn't want a relationship, but she made it easy, so I was happy to stick around. Right? There's plenty of guys like that in the world who don't yet know what they want. They don't know if they want a relationship, but they're happy to let you drive.
Let me ask your opinion on something, because you've been love coaches a long, long time. And at the beginning of when I began love coaching, online dating and dating apps weren't even a thing. Online dating was really in its infancy. And everyone says to me now, online dating has made it harder for men to commit. I want to know what you two think.
Oh, gosh.
Because there's so many options. You're swiping. Is it online dating?
No.
Is it culture?
It's men.
What's happening? It's men.
You're funny. I mean, really, this is the thing. A dating app, an online dating site, all of those things are tools, right? So like if you went and got a chainsaw and trim your tree, you cut your arm off, is the chainsaw bad? You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
online.
Well, you just don't
It's
know
the
how to
tool
use the
that's being
chainsaw.
Just don't
misused.
know
Yeah.
how to use the tool. So, one of the things, first of all, is to know that those things are a tool to get dates. If you're not getting offline meets and dates, then something's wrong and you don't know how to use that tool. That's all it's for. All it is for is to get a date, not to get a soulmate yet. It's right. It's just to get dates.
not to be chatting and sending messages and texts
Right.
back and forth for
No.
3
Right.
months.
Get
not
on the
meeting.
phone and then get to the coffee.
Yeah.
So I want to really clearly answer your question that Matthew answered, because the number one mistake that women make that block them from true love, soulmate love, from bringing in their beloved, this number one thing is that they make it easy. When they like a guy, they make it easy. And we are not saying play a game, because everything about what we do is about somebody stepping into their authentic self and being authentic. So we're not saying play a game. We're saying be you, but don't bend over backwards, twisting into a pretzel, trying to get somebody that you think is hot to like you. If he's attracted to you, he will lead and move the relationship forward. A man who wants a relationship with a woman will pursue that woman for a relationship. If he isn't calling, texting, leading the relationship forward, he's interested in spending time with you, like Matthew said, right? Oh, yeah, you're going to make it easy for me, sure, right?
Is there a way to pull it back if you've gotten the relationship off on the wrong foot? Can you pump the brakes and slow it down?
You can pump the brakes. It may not change his behavior because he may not be like relationship ready guy. I just want to say this piece about myself, right? I went from being that guy who was always labeled commitment phobic with the women I dated to pursuing this woman for a relationship.
She's pretty amazing.
She's pretty awesome,
But
right?
I
To the
never-
point of we were dating like 2 months and I said this to her. I said, when you come home with me for Christmas and meet my family, right? I didn't ask her. I told her she's coming with me to meet my family.
I got
over
my
the
bride. I'm
holidays.
gonna drag her home. And
I mean, it was super sexy, first
Yeah.
off, that he's like, when I was like, right? But I
they tell
never
you.
had to have the talk. I never once had to ask this man, where's this going? Because every step of the way, he showed me and told me through his behavior, his words, everything told me he wanted a relationship with me. I never had to ask. It was so obvious.
Well, it's obvious that you two are soulmates, and I love that you are giving everyone the tools to find this kind of relationship themselves. So make sure you go to creatingloveonpurpose.com and you get this free gift. Find out the other 6 blocks, because that one just blew my mind. Making it easy. Find out what the other 6 are, because that's clearly going to help you on your path to finding your soulmate. And this is just the beginning for you and I, for the two of you and I, because we have questions from our listeners in Technically Dating.
Technically Dating.
And Technically Dating is brought to you in partnership with blackpeoplemeet.com, the premier dating site for black singles. Okay, roll up your sleeves, because we have some real questions going on. And the first one is from a single lady. All the single ladies. She says, any good ideas for Valentine's Day of what to do for someone who's single?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you recommend, Orna?
Well, if you're single this Valentine's Day, the best thing that you can do is circle that date on the calendar and make a plan, so that you are going to take new actions, new steps, so that it is the last time you will be single on Valentine's Day, and that you will be with the love of your life, your beloved, your soulmate, whatever you want to call that, whatever that is for you, whatever the goal is. It's not just going to magically happen if it was meant to be. Right? We're really tired of the love by accident mentality. Well, if it's meant to be, and it's permeates all of our language around love, right? Like, oops, I slipped on a banana peel and I fell in love.
And I fell into the arms
right,
of
because
my beloved.
lasting love is a choice. I mean, I know you had your in-laws on recently,
Yeah.
that were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, and I bet if you asked them, which I'm sure you did, I'm sorry I didn't listen to the show, but I would like to, is to, that love, lasting love ultimately is a choice. And so when you cultivate through the dating process the tools for lasting love, then you know how to continue to choose the same person over and over and over again. And so the best thing you can do if you're single on Valentine's Day today, instead of, well, if you have to throw the pity party, I want you to feel your feelings. So if you have to have a pity party first, that's fine, however you do that. And then wipe the tears away, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and say, not again. Just like Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind when she says, as God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again. Because I know for me, when I struggled so much as a single person and I really ached to share my life with somebody. I mean, I didn't need a man. I mean, my life was full and complete and I had a great career. And I mean, my life was full. But when I really asked myself, like, what do I really want? I wanted love. Like, I wanted love more than anything. I mean, I threw away a career in the entertainment industry to work in personal growth because I think love is the most important thing. As a matter of fact, there are books out there that say the number one key to success in the world is the ability to create and maintain lasting relationships. It is the number one thing that you can do for yourself in all areas of your life. So if you're single this Valentine's Day, the best thing you can do is vow in how, the way you want to do that and say, I'm going to make a plan. I'm not going to leave it up to chance. I'm going to throw away.
I just hear that so much. Like people say, well, I don't want to put in this much work. And like women that are in these type A positions say, well, I do so much work all the time for other people. I just want it to be easy in love.
Look, you don't just wake up one day and lose 10 pounds, right? You don't just look for a career.
Unless you're eating in the dark.
Unless you're eating in the dark, right? You don't just look for a career that doesn't require you to do any effort. Maybe one day I'm just going to walk into a building, right? And they're going to offer me the most awesome job I've ever had, right? We don't think that way about anything else in life. We don't think that way about our health, about our career, about anything. But love, for some reason, we have this crazy idea that long-lasting, intimate, monogamous relationship is instinctual as a human being. Like, we just know how to do it. But the truth is, if we knew how to do it, then we'd be doing it, right? We don't know how to do it. The only thing instinctual about couples is sex. Procreation. We're animals, right? That's the instinctual part. The rest, we have to learn. And we're not taught well, because look at our families. Look at the craziness that happens. Divorced families, right? Whatever. We just talked to this woman yesterday, and she said her parents loved each other by fighting. Right? That's how they shared their feelings with each other, was they just fought all the time. And so that's what she grew up learning. And so for her, she's like, well, I want everything to be easy. I don't want any conflict. I don't want it, right? And so right there, she's stuck.
Single,
right?
Never married, by the way.
Single,
Shocker,
never
right?
married, right? Shocking that she grew up in that environment and now doesn't know how to do relationship. And you're not going to learn by watching a movie. You're not going to learn by reading some book. You have to go out and have experiences. And you have to learn from those experiences and change your behavior.
Yeah.
Make new choices.
I agree.
And get a guide. I mean, there's lots of good coaches out there. There's lots of great coaches, that will guide you to do the inner work. And so this is what I want to tell the ladies out there. In the dating process, you're doing way too much. We always have to tell our female clients, do less in the dating process. The work, though, is an inner shift about really identifying those patterns and really transforming them through experiential learning. Because when you learn something through experience, you'll never unlearn it, right? Then it becomes like riding a bike.
Exactly. And I would also say to her, like, Valentine's Day, you can also make it mean something else this year. I agree with Orna that get a plan for next year, but make it a Galentine's Day. Make it about self-love, and that this is the time that you're going to go inward and do something that's special to you. Because, I mean, yeah, you can feel your feelings, but you don't need to do the pity party. I did the pity party, and it didn't make me feel any better, right? It would have been better if I did something that was really more constructive. I want to get to some more questions because we have a lot of people that need love help. This one is from a guy who is married. He says, my wife is 12 years younger than me and constantly gets attention from other men. I'm uneasy. To her, it's a big game. What should I do?
Oh, well, that one's interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
more
So,
intense.
so one of the things we teach in terms of communication and relationship is how to be authentic, right? How to share what's really going on with you. And I want to give an example. We had a woman who reached out to us because she discovered her husband was watching a lot of porn, and she thought he might have a problem, and thought it might be a problem ultimately in their relationship. And so we went through a series of questions to first discover, like, is this an addiction problem where it's affecting his life? And it wasn't. He was spending time with his kids. He was spending time with her. He was earning
Performing?
money.
Is he performing
He was
still?
performing, right? He was doing all the things he needed to do, yet he also liked to do this thing.
It was like baseball for him.
Exactly. And so
kind
right,
of, yeah.
right, exactly. So before she reached out to us, she tried to have a conversation with him, and it didn't go well. He got real defensive and he got real upset. So we gave her a way to have the conversation, which is to really talk about you. I feel this.
Right.
This is what's going on with me. I have this concern, right? And it's all me, I. And he heard her. And he heard her concerns and her insecurities that were being triggered. And he was able to say, hey, okay, well, let's talk about this, what I like about it, how we can maybe. And they ended up actually incorporating some of it into their own lovemaking.
It's very sexy.
It's very sexy, right? So maybe this gentleman needs to have a conversation with his wife and just talk about himself.
Yeah.
About what's coming up with him, what's going on with him, so that she can see the effects of her behavior on him, not from a place of, you're doing this to me.
Yeah. The part that concerned me is when he said to her, it's a big game. Because how does he know that? That seems like an assumption, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's his judgment.
That's his judgment, and it could be an assumption. Like, that's the place to have the conversation, and then be right for him to share how he feels when that happens, and then ask and be curious instead of thinking you know the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthew and I say the key to a successful relationship is remembering the other person is not you, right?
Yeah, they're not in your head. They don't know what you're thinking.
They have no clue.
And love or attraction doesn't come with mind reading powers. So when we can step into curiosity about that person and really be in that space of curiosity and want to know, right? Ask the questions so that you come from curiosity to really be curious about what is that providing for her, right? What is that providing for her? Because maybe for her on some level there is something missing, and maybe there's something that he could step up and do for her, and maybe she doesn't know how to ask for it.
That's a good jumping off point for a conversation. And, it could be also manifesting from his own insecurity. I mean, he mentioned that she's 12 years younger. Yeah. Maybe he feels a little awkward about that. And so maybe he's overlaying his judgments about himself on the situation.
Look, they're married, right? She chose him.
Yes. Good point.
She didn't choose these other guys. She chose him.
Yeah. Gotta step it up. Okay, this one comes to us from a female. Let's see. Okay. I'm like, oh, we have so many good questions. Okay. A female, she's 21. She says, I'm in love with my upstairs neighbor. We have been involved with each other for 3 months. No sex. We just spend time together and kiss, but there's always been this push and pull between us. Sometimes he will let go and show me a lot of affection, or we can just ignore each other for weeks. And I can tell that he's really holding back his feelings for me, and I don't know what to do. It's consuming me how strongly I feel about him. I feel like, Matthew, you're going to have an opinion on this. He lives upstairs.
She's really filling in the blanks. She's making a lot of stuff up about what is going on inside of his head, right? Because she's the one that says, I know he's got a lot of feelings there that he's holding back from me. You don't know that.
Right.
You're making that up. You have a desire, and there's a part of you that feels attracted to this guy for some reason, right? We already talked about the idea of your love imprint. Who knows what it is in her love imprint that makes this guy really jump out for her? But when it's a love imprint match, it has that intensity. It has that we're filling in the blanks and making stuff up. It has all of that energy on it, right? When Orna and I got together, we couldn't stop talking to each other, right? We had so much fun together. We felt so comfortable next to each other. We wanted to talk to each other again, but it wasn't like intense in a way that said, oh my God, I have to have this. Oh my God, I got to figure this out. Oh my God, right? I've had those crazy 24-hour first dates, right? And you're like, oh my God. And then it crashes and burns because it's something, it's a wound inside of you that's speaking. It's not your heart. And we get confused.
The ultimate making it easy. He lives in her building.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
totally.
I know.
Totally.
I mean, when I was single, I actually did stand up once. It's a story for another time. But
Oh.
I had a friend who's a comedian, and she dared me. And at the time, I was doing things that people were daring me to do. So I
love that.
So I did 6 minutes at the Improv. Probably the scariest 6 minutes ever. But she was like, just talk about blowjobs and answering machines. And, one of the things that
This is before you were married.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, my
Just
God.
Had to clarify.
No,
Yeah.
that was
Long time ago.
Yeah, long time ago. In the 90s, okay? So, one of the things that was in my bit was talking about how, I must date, lazy guys because they just call and say, well, why don't you just come over? Right. And this is like the ideal, like, why don't you just come over? She's so convenient. You know what I mean? And then she makes herself available. So again, it's not about playing a game. I would say to this young gal, because she's only 21 and she's going, what's going on here? What's going on here is here's a guy who's utilizing the fact that you're convenient and available for not sex, but companionship and some emotional and physical intimacy. And if this guy wanted an actual relationship, he would pursue you for more. So I would say, I'm going to sound kind of cruel, but I'm going to go there because she asked, and I'm your guest today. So I'm going to say, sweetheart, kill the hope. Kill the hope with this guy.
That hurt. I felt that.
Whatever you have to do to kill it, get yourself busy, go on date, kill the hope with this guy. If he's the guy, he will come on his white horse to collect you and find you and woo you and win you and say, I really want something more.
Absolutely.
You can't make yourself convenient for some guy that you're filling in the blanks and having fantasies about. That's a fantasy. It's not a relationship.
And I also think people are afraid to make things awkward, which leads me to my last question. This is from a female from Utah. She says, how do you tell someone that you need space and time away from them without hurting their feelings?
Oh, well, that's actually an easy one. You speak from the I statement and you let them know. I mean, I don't know if she's pussyfooting around that she wants a break and no relationship or she just needs some time to herself, like in regularly through the week, right? So some people actually have a non-negotiable need of personal freedom, and those people need their regular time to be all alone, right? Like even if they were with their ideal partner, like their celebrity crush suddenly became available, they're still going to need their personal freedom, right? And so I don't know if she's saying she wants a break, like we need a break, right? Like I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. If she's saying I just need space. The thing about those people that need space regularly, in the romance stage, that first phase of relationship, when everything's all hot and juicy and new and sexy and exciting, we tend to not take our space. Right? And then when the inevitable, hangover from the romance stage starts and we end up in the power struggle, suddenly now we want our space. And it freaks that other person out, right?
Right.
They're like,
this wasn't the case before.
Right,
What
exactly.
have I
happened?
done?
Yes. So what you do is you have a conversation, again, sharing from the I place. I am somebody who really likes my personal freedom. I need some time for myself to just recharge and clear my head. And it's really only something I could do all by myself. You could say whatever, if George Clooney somehow, got divorced and was pursuing me, I would still need my space from George Clooney, right? Just spell it out and then say, and then make a plan. Just say, so this coming Saturday afternoon, I'm going to spend the whole day with me. And then when I'm all refreshed and renewed or whatever, like let's have a plan, on Sunday afternoon to reconnect or something.
Shouldn't everyone do that?
Yeah.
You should have your own time in a relationship.
I totally think that.
But not everybody needs it.
But giving him a time frame to say, hey, look, I need a day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is to do my thing, and then have a plan for the end of that time where you're going to get back together. right? So for him, it's not this open-ended, hey, I need a little space right now.
Yeah, that feels
and
like you're
I'll
just
get
being
back to
sent
you sometime.
Some
Sent
vague.
out.
Right? And
Yeah.
so his brain starts going, what's going on? What's going on? What did I do wrong? Is she leaving? Has she got another guy? Instead, give him a time frame and make it clear and specific and have a plan for when you're going to reconnect.
I mean, the truth is we all get scared to say what we want, which is so goofy because how does your partner know? Again,
Right.
your partner does not come with mind reading powers. I mean,
And the only way you can really get your needs met is by being vocal about them. And
Yeah.
whether you like the answer you get or you don't, sometimes it's just better to know. And I know you have much more that you
Yes.
can share with our listeners at creatingloveonpurpose.com. They can get the 7 major mistakes that block single women from finding true love and how to avoid them at creatingloveonpurpose.com. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights with us again.
Oh, yes.
It's always fresh and new with you two. You're welcome back anytime.
oh, thank you so much, Damona.
Yeah, and thank you to our partners, blackpeoplemeet.com. Remember, you can get a week for free, and that'll take you through Valentine's Day if you're still looking for a date at blackpeoplemeet.com/dates and mates. Also, thank you to Techspert for giving us the questions for this week's show. You can post your own questions and dole out some advice of your own on the Techspert app, which you can download in the App Store. And if you're not a subscriber, while you're in the App Store, why not subscribe to Dates and Mates and leave us a review? Tell us which segments you love, and we'll keep making more of them. I wish you a very happy Valentine's Day, whether you're coupled or single, and we'll be back again next week with more modern love advice. Until then, happy dating.